It started with a shirt. Not a fight. Not a confession. Just a shirt in the laundry basket. It was a Thursday evening and I was doing the laundry because Laura said she had a late meeting and wouldn't be home until 9. I had gotten into the habit of helping more around the house, not that she ever asked me to, but because it seemed like the kind of thing a decent husband does. She'd been tired lately. Distant, sure, but tired too. I figured maybe if I picked up more of the slack, she'd come back to herself. I was halfway through sorting clothes, folding towels, and matching socks when I pulled a pale cream blouse out of the basket. I almost missed it. The light wasn't great in the laundry room, dim ceiling bulb, the kind that hums faintly if the room gets too quiet, but when I turned the blouse to hang it up, I saw the mark. A red smudge. Dark. Almost maroon. Right on the collar, just near the seam. Small, but not subtle. It didn't match anything in our house. Not the wine we drank. Not the salsa we had last week. And it definitely wasn't the pinkish nude shade Laura usually wore, what she called cashmere beige, whatever that meant. This was deeper, bolder. And the location, right at the neckline, tucked just beneath where her hair would fall, made it look like something someone would leave by accident or deliberately, depending on how cynical you wanted to get. I stared at it longer than I should have, just holding the blouse like I expected it to talk back. In the back of my mind, a thought I didn't want to have started to bloom. The kind of thought that creeps up slowly, like a leak under the floorboards. You don't notice it until it's already warped everything around it. I didn't say anything when she came home. She was later than she said she'd be, almost 10, actually. Said the client was chatty and that traffic out by the freeway was a mess. She smelled like something unfamiliar. Not bad, just different. Maybe a new lotion. Or a different detergent. Something small but strange. We kissed hello, like always. But even that felt a beat too quick. She didn't ask about dinner even though I'd left out leftovers. Just went upstairs, changed, and mumbled something about being exhausted. By the time I brought the laundry upstairs, she was already in bed, scrolling on her phone with her headphones in, eyes half closed. I hung the blouse where she could see it on the hook behind the bathroom door. Not confrontational, just visible. I didn't know what I was doing. Fishing, maybe? And she noticed. The next morning, while I was making coffee, she stepped into the kitchen holding the blouse by the hanger, swaying it back and forth like it was a joke. Hey, she said. Thanks for doing the laundry, but this isn't stained. It's paint. From the volunteer event. Her voice was light. She even smiled. Red paint, I said, keeping my tone flat. Looks like lipstick. She tilted her head like she was trying not to roll her eyes. It's not. We were painting banners for the food drive. Tempura or something. I got it all over my hands, my arms. You should have seen me look like a mess. Huh, I said. Didn't know you were doing art stuff? It was last minute. They needed help and Sharon bailed, so I filled in. Sorry I didn't mention it. I watched her as she poured oat milk into her coffee like none of this was unusual. No pause. No nerves. Just confident, casual Laura. The version of her that could sell an idea in a boardroom or get a free pastry at the farmer's market. The version I used to admire. You believe me, right? She added, turning to look at me, mug in hand. The smile was still there, but her eyes had lost their warmth. They were scanning me. Measuring my reaction. And here's the part that bothers me even now, I nodded. I smiled. I let it go. Because what was I supposed to say? No, I think someone kissed your neck and it wasn't me? I didn't have anything to go on. Just a feeling. Just a mark. Just a tiny, stupid smudge of red that may or may not mean anything at all. But from that moment on, something shifted. It wasn't just the blouse. It was the way she shut the conversation down. She pivoted so fast, like she had a rehearsed response ready. As if this kind of suspicion wasn't new to her. Or maybe it was, and she was just really good at disarming it. You always jump to conclusions, she added when I didn't say anything else. I know your mind. You get weird about stuff. She laughed. Not mean exactly, but dismissive. And then she left for work like it was any other day. I stood there after she was gone, the kitchen clock ticking too loud, the coffee growing cold in my mug. That's when the doubt kicked in. Not just about the stain, but about me. Was I really the kind of person who mistrusted his wife over a shirt? Was I just being insecure? Jealous? Paranoid? But no matter how many times I tried to convince myself I was overreacting, that red smudge stuck with me. It was so small. So ordinary. But it had cracked something open. It's hard to explain if you haven't felt it yourself, that sudden, quiet unraveling of certainty. You start to question little things. The past week. The past month. You replay conversations in your head, searching for tone changes, for pauses, for lies tucked inside truths. You wonder if you missed something. Or if you're imagining it. That night, I couldn't sleep. Laura dozed off beside me, curled away, the blanket pulled over her shoulder like a barrier. I stared at the ceiling, hearing the word paint in her voice over and over again. Paint. Not lipstick. Paint. Eventually, I got up and went downstairs. I poured myself a drink I didn't really want and scrolled through her Instagram out of pure restlessness. She hadn't posted anything in a week. Not unusual. But something struck me. No photos of us in a while. Not even in her stories. Not since our anniversary dinner 6 weeks ago. That night, she had posted a picture of the wine, of the restaurant, of the flowers. But not of me. I remember thinking it was odd, but I brushed it off. She was never big on posting couple pictures. Now though, I wasn't so sure. The thing is, a relationship doesn't shatter all at once. It doesn't explode. It erodes. Slowly. Quietly. Like water wearing away stone. And you don't always realize it's happening until the cracks are too big to ignore. For us, the first crack wasn't a fight. It wasn't a confession. It was a red smudge on a cream-colored collar. And from that moment on, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't unsee it. They say hindsight is 20/20ths. That's true, but it's also useless when you're staring at the pieces of something you should have protected but didn't. That red smudge didn't just stain a collar, it left a mark on everything else I'd ignored. Or excused. Or laughed off because I wanted to believe I had nothing to worry about. That night, after Laura went to bed, I sat alone on the living room couch in the dark, the glow of the street lamp leaking through the blinds, casting shadows on the walls. And my mind just unraveled. I started thinking back over the past few months. Not just the obvious stuff, but the subtle shifts. The kind of changes you miss when you're too close to someone. You see them every day, you brush past them in the hallway, you eat breakfast at the same table, but somehow you stop really seeing. It began with the little things. She started going to more events. Happy hours, work mixers, volunteer nights, community meetups. At first, I didn't question it. Laura had always been outgoing. She liked being involved in things. But the frequency changed. What used to be 1 or 2 nights a month turned into every week, then multiple times a week, and always something new. She'd come home late but never looked tired. No yawning, no messy bun, no God, that was exhausting. If anything, she looked charged. Like she'd just come back from something exciting. She'd take a long shower, slip into bed smelling like lavender and some perfume I didn't recognize, and fall asleep within minutes. No cuddling. No talking. Just distance. Then there was her laptop. We used to sit side by side at night, she'd browse Pinterest, I'd scroll Reddit, or we'd plan trips we never ended up taking. But at some point, her screen became private. Locked. Literally. She added a password to her MacBook and started closing it the second I walked into the room. Said it was just work stuff, sensitive contracts she couldn't share. But Laura wasn't some CIA operative. She was in nonprofit fundraising. And we used to joke about how boring her spreadsheets were. She started pulling away physically too. Not just in bed, though that was part of it, but in public. I'd try to hold her hand on walks and she'd keep hers buried in her coat pocket. I'd reach for her at the movies and she'd offer a tight smile but not her fingers. I told myself she was tired. That work had her stressed. But even when things were hard before, she never kept me at arm's length like that. And then there was the sweater. God, I can't believe I forgot about the damn sweater. It was about 2 months before the laundry incident. She'd come back from a weekend trip supposedly with coworkers for a conference upstate. She arrived home on Sunday night, suitcase in hand, looking radiant. Not tired, not burnt out, radiant. Her cheeks were pink from the cold, her hair was in a loose ponytail, and she was wearing this gray knit sweater I'd never seen before. It was too big for her. Not oversized in a trendy way, oversized like it belonged to someone else. Someone taller. Broader. I asked her where she got it and she didn't skip a beat. Oh, one of the stylists at the conference gave it to me. Said I looked cold. Kind of weird to give you a whole sweater, no? She laughed. You're so suspicious. It was a swag thing. Promo merch or whatever. Chill. And I did. I let it go. Because when you love someone, you don't want to believe they're lying to your face. You want to believe the world makes sense. That your marriage, your home, your life, it's still intact. But sitting there on the couch that night, the dots started connecting whether I wanted them to or not. And the pattern they made? It didn't look like trust. Even her social media had changed. Laura used to post about us. Brunch photos, anniversary selfies, dumb couple memes. That all dried up months ago. Her posts became vague *TS of sunsets, inside jokes with coworkers, drinks clinking at bars. No tags. No names. Just captions like, needed this or good vibes only. I remember one post specifically. It was a boomerang video of a drink, an old-fashioned, her favorite, being stirred at some rooftop bar downtown. In the background, barely visible in the reflection, I could swear there was a man's hand. Big. Tattooed. But I couldn't say for sure. It was blurry. And maybe that's what I wanted too, to keep everything blurry. She claimed it was a group outing. I told myself I was being jealous. But now? Now I know my gut was trying to scream through all the noise. You ever feel that? Like your instincts are banging on the walls of your brain, begging you to listen, but your heart keeps shushing them because the truth would be too painful to accept? I felt like a ghost in my own house. Every room held something that didn't quite belong. Her laughter through the bathroom door as she texted someone I didn't know. The perfume that lingered on her scarf that I hadn't bought. The way she'd rush to the laundry machine the second she got home on Thursdays, her so-called volunteer days. I told myself she was just being responsible. But now I know she was hiding something. And the worst part? She never even looked guilty. If anything, she looked relieved when I didn't ask questions. Like every unspoken suspicion gave her permission to keep going. That night, lying in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling and counted the seconds between her breaths. I used to match my rhythm to hers. It made me feel close, connected. But that night, every exhale from her felt like a stranger's breath in the dark. I scrolled through her calendar the next day, telling myself I was just being curious. Not snooping. Just looking. But all I found were vague entries. Meeting. Outreach. Volunteer hours. No specifics. Nothing that could be cross-referenced. I even Googled the name of the event she said she attended that week, a Hope Drive paint night. Nothing came up. Not even a Facebook page. I didn't say anything to her about it. I wasn't ready for the answer. Or maybe I just didn't want to look like the paranoid husband who can't trust his wife not to lie about community service. But silence doesn't protect you. It just gives the other person more space to lie in. That Saturday, I took a drive. I didn't tell Laura where I was going. Just said I needed air. She barely looked up from her phone. Said, drive safe, and went back to scrolling. I parked outside the community center. The one she supposedly volunteered at twice a month. It was closed. Not just for the day. Permanently. A handwritten sign on the glass door said they'd shut down operations in August. It was October. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Not from rage. Not even from sadness. Just the cold, sharp realization that I wasn't crazy. That all the red flags I'd tried to turn white were waving right in front of me. I sat there for a long time, just watching the wind shuffle trash along the curb. Cars passed by, people laughed across the street, someone walked a dog. The world kept moving while mine sat still. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about one shirt or one lie or even one affair. It was about the erosion, the slow fade, the calculated choices she made every single day to build a wall between us, one late night, one locked laptop, one lie at a time. And the worst part was I still wasn't ready to confront her. Because once I opened that door, I knew there was no going back. There's no unseeing, no pretending. But I also knew I couldn't stay asleep in the life we'd built together, not if I wanted to keep any part of myself intact. The red smudge on the collar had been the beginning. This was the echo. And it was getting louder. The confirmation didn't come from a fight, or a confession, or even a slip of the tongue. It came through an email. No subject. No sender I recognized. Just a ping on my phone one morning while I was brushing my teeth. I almost deleted it, thought it was spam, some junk message that slipped through the filter. But something made me tap. There was no message body. Just a single attachment. A photo. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. The image was low-res, grainy, probably taken with a phone that had seen better days. It was night. A dimly lit bar, wood-paneled walls and bottles stacked high behind the counter. It looked vaguely familiar. I blinked at it, trying to make sense of the blur until my eyes landed on her. Laura. She was sitting on the bar counter, not on a stool, but actually perched on the edge of it, one leg tucked under, the other dangling slightly like she was too comfortable for a stranger's space. She was wearing the gray dress I'd bought her last Christmas. I remember the way her eyes lit up when she unwrapped it, said it made her feel timeless. She had worn it only once before. To a wedding. A friend's. My friend's. And now here she was, in that same dress, sitting at a bar counter with a man's tattooed arm wrapped snugly around her waist. The tattoo was bold. A black rose wrapped in barbed wire. I didn't recognize the man, his face was mostly obscured and the camera angle was poor, but the way she leaned into him told me everything I needed to know. Her head was tilted slightly toward his. Her hand rested on his knee, and her smile, God, that smile, wasn't the one she gave me at the breakfast table or during polite conversations with neighbors. It was the smile she gave when she thought no one was watching. Relaxed. Familiar. In asterisk, mate. This wasn't a one-time thing. This wasn't a bad decision after a few drinks. This was practiced. Lived in. Comfortable. I stood there in the bathroom, my toothbrush still buzzing in my hand, staring at the image until the screen dimmed. I tapped it awake again. Stared some more. Then, without thinking, I saved it to a hidden folder on my phone, exited the email, and deleted it from the inbox. I didn't react. I didn't scream or cry or break something. I just stood there. My pulse was racing. My hands were shaking. But my brain? Numb. As if some quiet part of me had known this was coming. Had been waiting for it. Because when you've spent enough time convincing yourself not to believe the truth, it becomes a relief, twisted as that sounds, when the truth finally comes and hits you square in the chest. You stop wondering. Stop second-guessing. The guessing is over. That day, I didn't tell her what I saw. I didn't bring it up. I didn't accuse. I studied her instead. I watched the way she made her coffee, absent-mindedly, almost mechanically. The way she hummed along to a song in her earbuds, a tune I couldn't hear. The way she laughed at something on her phone and quickly tilted the screen away when I walked by. She kissed me on the cheek before leaving for work. I didn't flinch. I just watched her walk away. On the outside, everything looked normal. She was good at that. Better than I ever realized. Playing the role. Keeping the story straight. And maybe if I hadn't seen the photo, I'd still be pretending too. But now? Now I saw her differently. She came home late again that night. Said the team dinner ran long. Something about a coworker's birthday. She smelled like gin and some perfume I didn't recognize. Not the soft floral scent she used to wear, but something muskier. Louder. I nodded. Said I hoped she had fun. She looked at me, maybe searching for a trace of suspicion, but I gave her nothing. I didn't want to argue. Not yet. I wanted her to keep feeling comfortable because people make mistakes when they think they're safe. That weekend, I went back through her photos. Not the social media ones. The real ones. The ones stored on our home computer. The folder marked us. There were hundreds. Vacations. Birthdays. Random mornings at home. Smiles in almost all of them. And yet, as I clicked through, I noticed how many of those smiles stopped reaching her eyes. At some point, maybe 6, 7 months ago, there was a shift. She went from leaning into me to standing slightly apart. From holding my hand in photos to resting hers at her side. I hadn't noticed in real time. Or maybe I had and didn't want to see it. I found one picture that hit me harder than the rest. It was from a beach trip with friends about a year ago. We were sitting side by side on a blanket, her head resting on my shoulder, her eyes closed, my arm around her. She looked peaceful. I remember how warm the sun felt that day. How happy I thought we were. That version of her, that version of us, was gone. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I opened her laptop. I didn't even hesitate. It was locked, of course, but I knew the old password. She must have forgotten she used it for a different user profile. And there it was. Another photo. This time clearer. Same bar. Same dress. Same man. But now she was facing him, laughing. Head tilted back, hand on his chest. And he was looking at her like she was the only woman in the world. It was dated 2 weeks ago. A Thursday night. I checked her calendar. That night was blocked off as Hope Drive volunteer event. I copied the image. Sent it to my hidden folder. Then carefully logged out, closed everything, and stepped away. She never noticed. Or if she did, she never said. And still, I didn't confront her. Not yet. I know that sounds strange. Like I was torturing myself. But it wasn't about that. It was about control. About reclaiming something. Because for so long I'd felt like I was on the back foot. Reacting to whatever story she gave me. But now I had the truth. I just hadn't revealed it. She thought she was holding the cards. She wasn't. Later that week, she asked if I wanted to join her at a charity auction her office was sponsoring. No thanks, I said, sipping my drink. You've got it covered. She smiled, almost relieved. That's when I realized. She wasn't even pretending to include me anymore. I watched her walk out the door in a fitted black dress and heels I didn't recognize. She looked stunning, untouchable. Like someone I used to know in another life. And all I could think about was that photo. Her on the counter. That tattooed arm. The way she melted into it. She had chosen her world. Carefully. Quietly. Piece by piece. And now I was no longer a part of it. That image, grainy as it was, had done something irreversible. It didn't just confirm what I feared. It freed me from it. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. You stop waiting. Stop hoping. You start preparing. I closed the laptop, deleted the browser history, and made a folder on my desktop labeled Exit Plan. Because if she could build a secret life without me, then I could build one without her. It's wild how quickly your memory sharpens when you finally stop pretending. Once the truth lands in your lap, or in my case, drops into your inbox with a blurry picture and the weight of finality, your brain does something strange. It becomes forensic, obsessive. Every ignored instinct gets pulled out of the mental archive and put under a microscope. You start replaying scenes like they're evidence. And suddenly, everything that once seemed small doesn't feel small at all. I remember this one morning, maybe a month ago, when I tried to surprise Laura with coffee in bed, something I used to do back when we were both still trying. I had taken the day off. She hadn't, or so she said. I came upstairs with 2 mugs, hers with a splash of oat milk, mine black, and found her standing in the hallway, startled. She flinched when I called her name. I asked what she was doing, and she said, "Just checking emails." She wasn't holding her phone. I peeked into the guest room, where her laptop was open on the desk. The screen was dim, a browser window up, a chat box partially minimized. She closed it with a snap, walked past me, and kissed my cheek. "Thanks for the coffee," she said. That moment had stuck with me. Not because anything outright happened, but because of how quickly she shifted the mood. Like flipping a light switch. At the time, I chalked it up to stress. Now, I saw it for what it was. She was hiding something. Probably someone. There were others. The Uber receipt. It was buried in our shared account. She must have forgotten I still got email alerts. A trip logged at 9:17 p.m. from a street across town. Not the neighborhood where her office is. Not even close. When I asked where she had been that night, she said she stayed late at work, prepping for an annual report. I didn't question it. Why would I? I had no reason to suspect the woman I married would lie so easily. Except she did. And she was good at it. Then there was the night I made pasta. Her favorite fettuccine with sun-dried tomato cream sauce, grilled chicken, roasted garlic bread on the side. I'd even opened a bottle of red we'd been saving since our trip to Sonoma. I thought maybe we could eat on the patio, reconnect. No special occasion, just a Thursday. She came home almost 2 hours late. Said she'd forgotten to tell me about a happy hour. Everyone went. I couldn't really skip it. She barely touched her plate. Said she wasn't that hungry. Drank half a glass of wine. Then claimed she was exhausted and went to bed early. I stared at that full plate for what felt like hours. I remember cleaning up, scraping the barely touched food into the trash, and thinking, maybe I'd overdone it. Maybe I was the one trying too hard. But now I know. She didn't skip dinner because she was tired. She skipped it because someone else had already fed her. Not with pasta, but with attention. With something that had become more satisfying than the life she had with me. It's painful, realizing how often you excused what should have been obvious. Even her scent had changed. She started using a new perfume, spicy, heavier than the fresh, floral tones she used to favor. When I asked, she said she was experimenting. New season, new vibe, she joked. I smiled, said it smelled nice. But the truth is, it wasn't her. At least not the version I'd known for years. It was something or someone else's influence. I just didn't see it at the time. Then came the phone habits. We used to charge our phones in the kitchen overnight. It was a little tradition we had. Technology detox, she called it. But slowly that changed. She started taking hers to bed. Said she needed it for her alarm. Then it was podcasts. Then sleep sounds. Always a new reason. She started sleeping with it face down. I'd glance over in the middle of the night and the black screen felt like a wall between us. She added a fingerprint lock. Turned off previews. Turned off sound. One night, I woke up to the glow of her screen at 2:14 a.m. Her fingers moved fast like she was deleting something. I didn't say anything. I just rolled over. That moment haunted me for days. Now I understood why. And the silence, God, the silence. Laura used to hum when she cooked. She'd sing half the lyrics to old 90s songs she barely remembered. She'd talk to herself while putting on makeup. There was always sound, movement, presence. Yeah? The house felt quiet, heavy. Our conversations had become transactional. Schedules, groceries, updates on her work. But never about us. Not about how I was doing or what I was struggling with. I used to think she was just tired. But that's the lie we tell ourselves when we're being emotionally abandoned, that the person we love is just overwhelmed, just distracted, just off. No. She was gone. She'd left piece by piece. Her body was in the house, but her mind, her heart, they were with someone else. I realized this fully one Saturday morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table reading the news when Laura walked in, phone in hand, still in her sleep shirt. She looked happy. Not forced. Not distracted. Genuinely content. She didn't look at me. She poured herself coffee, leaned against the counter, and texted someone. She smiled at whatever reply came through. Then she looked up, saw me watching her, and the smile disappeared like someone had flipped a switch. "Everything okay?" she asked. Yeah, I lied. Fine. But I wasn't. Because in that moment I saw something I couldn't unsee, the way she lit up from a message that wasn't from me. The weight of it all hit me hard that afternoon. I went for a walk without a destination. Ended up sitting on a bench near the river, watching the water drift past like it had somewhere better to be. I thought about the first time Laura and I came here. We'd brought sandwiches, sat under a tree, and talked about where we wanted to live, what our dream house looked like, how many dogs we'd adopt. It felt like forever ago. Now, I didn't even know who she was texting when she smiled like that. It wasn't me. It hadn't been me for a long time. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat there, listening to the wind in the trees and wondering how many lies it took to make a marriage unrecognizable. Turns out not that many. Just a few quiet ones. Ones you barely notice. A work thing. A girl's night. A red smudge on a collar. And eventually they pile up so high that you're left standing in the shadow of someone you don't know anymore. Someone you used to love. Someone who used to love you back. And in that shadow, even the smallest things start to loom like giants. The full trash can she never emptied. The way she always left the toothpaste cap off. The little sigh she made when I kissed her forehead. Before, I thought those things were quirks. Now, I see them as signs. Signs that I was being phased out. One overlooked moment at a time. There's a strange kind of power in giving up. Not the kind that comes from surrendering to despair. This wasn't that. This was different. This was about refusing to keep playing a game where the rules only applied to me. It was about stepping out of a performance I didn't audition for in the first place. That Monday, I opened our shared finance app. The same one we'd used since we first moved in together. It tracked everything: rent, subscriptions, groceries, that overpriced gym we never went to anymore. We even had silly little tags on purchases. Hers read L in cursive. Mine was just M. It used to feel like a partnership. It used to feel like trust. Now it felt like financing a stranger's double life. I started scrolling through the expenses. There it was, her Spotify subscription. Still linked to my account. I remembered when I'd signed her up for premium as a surprise. She used to love building playlists. Sunday mornings we'd play pasta jazz while cooking together, or those weird ambient mixes she claimed helped her write grant proposals. Lately, I'd noticed she mostly wore headphones when she was around me. As if she needed a barrier between our world and whatever she'd created for herself. I removed the card. Then I found the subscription for that meal kit service. The one she insisted we needed to stay healthy and organized but had stopped using weeks ago. She used to get excited about unboxing those little bags of pre-cut vegetables and flash-frozen salmon. She hadn't cooked dinner for us in over a month. Cancelled. Next was the gym. Her name was still on the joint plan even though I was the only one showing up anymore. The last time she went was sometime in June, based on the check-in history. Switched to a solo membership. Our shared Amazon Prime account? Gone. Hulu? Gone. Adobe? Gone. I was done paying for convenience. For access. For an asterisk Macy that no longer existed. And yes, maybe part of it was petty. But most of it wasn't. It was practical. Fair. Honest. All the things she hadn't been. We used to joke about how modern marriage was basically a joint business operation with emotional tax breaks. Well, I was dissolving the corporation. I didn't tell her any of this. She'd find out on her own, and when she did, I wanted her to feel the quiet shift. Not a bang, but a slow unraveling of her safety net. The one I had built and held up for years while she made withdrawals in secrecy. Later that week, I went to the bank and opened a savings account. Just my name on it. No shared access. No linked cards. I deposited a chunk of money that had once gone toward groceries she never ate with me, date nights she canceled, gifts I bought trying to fix something she wasn't even invested in fixing. I didn't feel guilt. I felt something closer to clarity. I even started doing something I hadn't done in years. I kept receipts. Physical ones. I tucked them into an envelope marked just in case. Not out of spite. Just protection. Documentation. A quiet insurance policy in case this all went where I thought it might. That same afternoon, I enrolled in a local community center photography class. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. For the first time in months, I gave myself permission to have something that wasn't about us because there was no us anymore. Not in the way that mattered. Laura noticed the calendar entry when she glanced at our fridge magnet board. "You're doing a class?" she asked, sipping from a smoothie I knew she didn't make. "Yep. Starts Thursday." "Oh, that's usually my volunteer night." I nodded. "Guess we'll both be busy." She blinked, thrown by how little I offered. She was used to me asking for details, asking how it went, if she wanted me to drive her, if she needed anything. Not anymore. I could tell she was waiting for me to follow up. I didn't. That Thursday, I left the house before she did. The class wasn't anything special, 6 people in a rented rec room with folding chairs and hand-me-down tripods, but it was real. Tangible. The instructor gave us old-school assignments, portraits, shadows, light composition. I hadn't picked up my camera in years, and when I did, it felt like breathing after holding my lungs underwater for far too long. I snapped a photo of a cracked sidewalk bathed in golden hour light. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't think about her. I didn't wonder where she was or who she was with. I just existed. That night, I came home later than usual. Laura was already in bed. She'd left a note on the counter. Leftover tie in the fridge. Hope class was fun. No smiley face. No heart. Just a sentence. I threw the note away and went to bed. The next morning, she brought up our internet bill. "Did the autopay get messed up?" "I think the card got declined." "No," I said without looking up from my coffee. "I switched cards." "Oh. Why?" "I didn't want everything coming out of one place anymore." She went quiet. A year ago, that conversation would have led to an argument. Or a guilt trip. Or a long, painful dinner full of awkward silences. This time, it ended in a shrug. She walked away. The balance was shifting. Slowly. Quietly. She started asking fewer questions. I started giving fewer answers. And still, she hadn't confronted me about any of it. Not the subscriptions. Not the card changes. Not the photography class. Either she didn't care, or she didn't want to risk what she thought she had. Either way, I didn't care anymore. This wasn't revenge. This was refusal. Refusal to keep sponsoring a life that didn't include me. Refusal to keep acting like I hadn't seen the photo of her draped across someone else's lap in the dress I bought with good intentions and a naive heart. Refusal to be the guy footing the bill for someone else's fantasy. She tried once, just once, to get the upper hand back. It was a Saturday morning. I was sitting on the porch with a book when she stepped out, coffee in hand, like everything was normal. "You know, I've noticed you've been kind of distant," she said, keeping her voice light. "Yeah? Yeah. And I think we should talk. About us." That was rich. After all this time, she suddenly wanted to talk. I looked at her for a long beat, then said, "Sure. But not right now." She blinked. "Why not?" "I've got somewhere to be." I didn't. I just didn't want to give her the satisfaction of dictating the timeline anymore. She stood there for a second, her lips slightly parted like she was about to push further. But then she backed off. Turned. Went inside. I don't know what she thought I was doing. Maybe she suspected I was seeing someone else. Maybe she thought I was quietly planning a dramatic exit. The truth was simpler. I was reclaiming the space she'd quietly stolen. I started jogging again. Bought new shoes. Started waking up before sunrise, lacing up and pounding the pavement while the rest of the neighborhood still slept. I liked the quiet. The solitude. The way my breath felt like proof I was still here, still whole, even if she didn't see it anymore. At night, I journaled. I hadn't done that since high school. But the words came easier than I expected. I wrote down the things I'd swallowed. The doubts. The evidence. The slow-burning anger. The grief that hadn't been given a proper name yet. Each entry ended with the same question: what are you still holding on to? And over time, the answers got shorter. One night I wrote, a ghost. A version of her that doesn't exist anymore. And that was the night I knew. She could keep the stories. The explanations. The volunteer nights that never happened and the passwords she changed. But my silence? My resources? My energy? She didn't get those anymore. She could lie to herself all she wanted. But I wasn't paying for the lie. Not anymore. A week after I cut her off financially, I drove to the old community center, the one she said held her art nights. The building was padlocked, weeds sprouting from cracks in the sidewalk. I waited in my car, not sure for what. A man in a ball cap eventually walked by, glanced at me, then doubled back. "You waiting for someone?" he asked. I told him I was just curious. He squinted, then nodded like he understood more than I was saying. "If it's Laura you're wondering about," he said, "you're not the first." That landed like a punch to the chest. He didn't give a name, didn't have to. I thanked him, drove off, and didn't stop until I reached the lake outside town. I stared at the water for a long time. Not crying. Not angry. Just clear. She hadn't stumbled. She had practiced. And I wasn't the first man to believe her. No dramatic ending. No screaming match. I packed my essentials while she was at a work dinner. Left my ring in her drawer right beside the bottle of perfume she claimed was a gift from her sister. I signed the lease on a small studio near the river, creaky floors, paint peeling by the windows. It was mine. I jogged every morning, returned to photography, drank coffee alone without waiting on anyone to join me. Her texts came, "Where are you? Come back." But I knew now. She didn't want me back. She wanted someone to orbit her again. Someone to validate her script. I had already returned. Not to her. To myself.